Okay. All right. We only have a few people in the waiting room right now, but hello, Karen.
Hi, Karen. Hi, Jip. Alex, Jip's coming into us from, is it Kansas? Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Jip. Hi, Karen. I don't know if your videos are working. Oh, awesome.
Hi.
Hi, Jip. What you doing today in Kansas?
Well, I had another meeting about an hour ago. I have personally some good news.
Okay.
I'm August 1. I have been enrolled in a PsyD program, which I abandoned about 10 years ago until I found out that out of the 66 units, I had already completed 37. So, need to finish it. Gotta start it, gotta finish it. And the point is not so much what am I gonna do with it. I've got my time and me, involved in it or committed to it. So I just hate to leave something hanging. Gotta finish it. My daughter said, "What are you gonna do with the debt?" I said, "I have no clue, but I'll figure something out."
So Jip, what are you finishing?
It's close to probably, well, it's in California. It's California Coast University,
And what's your major going to be?
psychology.
Oh my gosh, that's
Good.
fantastic. You'll use that.
I've gone through the master's program and I've done the autism thing. And I just wanted to get a broader view of what mental health is all about. It's not just about autism and ADHD. It's beyond that. And I hope this
It's really an honor to have Alex on here. He's one of my favorite fathers that I've met in 20 years at Autism Tree. That's just the truth. What I love about Alex is that his son, is it okay if I be personal, Alex, in introducing you? Okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure. Why Alex has kind of rock star status in my eyes when I think of him. It's just like that is not just that he serves our country as a Marine and he's obviously a badass, but I love his wife, Tracy. She's one of my favorite people. I love his kids, and his son, Derek, is incredibly talented. He's neurodiverse, but it's actually Alex's stepson. You would never know that. I've never seen Alex treat Derek like a stepson. I'm just saying he is factually, right? And Alex, you get just a lot more reverence from me because I'm seeing so many families over 20 years. It's thousands of families, and it's just very meaningful to me when I think about you. It's very meaningful that as long as I've known you, you are an amazing father to all your children, and you treat Alex with your relationship with Derek. I feel like I have the honor and privilege of knowing a lot about your family that I don't know about most families. And I think that I'm just really, really touched. I would never know from the outside that Derek is your stepson, and you guys have been through so much. And I do see you doing with Derek all the time, personally, not just with Tracy, but even when you talk to me, I know you want Derek to have a full life and to be successful and to be independent. And it's a super, super challenging road. And I just want to say, as your friend and your fan and your family, like it really always touches me. It's so meaningful. And our topic today is more about an experience that Alex has had, because our community has a lot of military families. Our country, our world certainly cares about Ukraine. And I just think it was important to me and to all of us in this community to shine the light on what Alex did after retirement to help families in Ukraine, many of which I didn't realize are special needs families. And so, Alex, I'm so touched and honored always by you. And it's a super big gift to have you here and to really share your personal experiences about how you helped families in Ukraine and what's going on and help us learn today. So Thank you. And the floor is now yours.
Well, Dana, thank you. And yeah, we met back in 2008 when I got stationed in Coronado, and we were having issues finding support for Derek, who was, was he like 8 or 9, and it was just a tough time that we were going through. And I'm so grateful for Dana and Autism Tree stepping in and really like connecting us with everybody, all the services in San Diego, and it was just a blessing. And it was just yeah, it was a godsend, really. And fast forward, I retired finally. I made it over 20 years. Check in the box with the as an active duty Marine, and worked a couple of years as federal law enforcement, and then had, because of physical problems with that, I had to resign from that, and now I am. I look at semi-retirement. We're going to call it semi-retirement because it feels like I'm working full time again. Semi-retirement, and picking and choosing what I want to do to help. I think that instead of devoting 5 days a week, sometimes more, 40 plus hours into something that I don't really want to do, now I could pick and choose. So fast forwarding, last year I was helping with I could share my screen, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, I've made a PowerPoint to keep me on to keep me on task, because I end up going down tangents, and I know this is a lunch and learn, and people are at lunch right now, so maybe. So I don't want to take up too much time. Let me see if I could share my screen, desktop maybe, or let's see. Last year, I went on a deployment with Aerial Recovery Group, which is a humanitarian not-for-profit. They started doing disaster recovery and down the Caribbean islands, and a lot of that type of work. Then when the Afghanistan, when we lost Afghanistan, the Taliban, there were a lot of U.S. personnel still stuck in U.S. citizens still stuck in Afghanistan. They partnered up with another group and evacuated hundreds of U.S. civilians, U.S. personnel to Kazakhstan, a neighboring country. Aerial Recovery Group was founded by husband and wife. The husband is Jeremy Locke. He's a retired Green Beret, and his wife Brittany, who is a real estate person in Nashville, Tennessee. They're based in Nashville. So, all right, a little bit brief historical background. The land grab around the Black Sea started in 2008, with the country of Georgia being invaded by little green men, which ended up later being identified as Wagner private military contractors working directly for the Kremlin. The reason why that little green men is a Georgian translation because they didn't have any identifying patches or insignia. The Ukraine war actually started in 2014 when Russia forces illegally annexed Crimea. Eastern Ukraine, known as the Donbass region, ethnically 50% Russian, 50% Ukrainian, 50% they identify as ethnic Russians. Additionally, in 2014, the misinformation, destabilization campaign, political agents, secret agents, provocateurs, saboteurs, and just general belligerents in the Donbass region. They destabilized the local and regional governments there. 2022, we all know Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine, surrounded the capital, Kyiv, and everybody thought Ukraine was going to fall, including our own government. And the Ukrainians took up arms and fought back, and they still are. Was that brief enough? Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Aerial Recovery Group. How did I get involved? All right. Well, I started when the Russians invaded. I knew there wasn't any aid going out to them from the U.S. It just seemed like almost like the U.S. government wasn't doing much, and so a mutual friend, I was helping him out, trying to acquire as many individual trauma first aid kits and tourniquets so we could send them to Ukraine. The only problem was distributing them, making sure they got to the right places, the people that needed these items. And I talked to my friend Dove about that, and he's like, well, there's a group, a buddy of mine just started, they mainly do hurricane disaster recovery, but I think they're trying to start up some kind of thing in Ukraine. So I got in contact with them, and anyway, one thing led to another, and they asked me if I wanted to go and help out. So, okay, a little background: the orphans and the non-combatants, that was the specific mission, going to the eastern part of the country and delivering aid. That aid that we were collecting, that we were actually, it started just piecemeal, grassroots. People donating one tourniquet, buy a tourniquet for $10, send it to Ukraine, and then all of a sudden they started getting warehouses full of them. They didn't have a way to get them there, and then once we drop them off, all right, we have all this room on these vehicles. We might as well see if the Ukrainian government has people that they want evacuated. And it just so happens that I guess it's the Directorate of Human Services for Ukraine. We didn't know this, but I guess Ukraine has one of the largest orphan systems in the world. It's funded through the church, which is very strong in Ukraine. It's the Orthodox Catholic Church, formerly known as the Russian Orthodox Catholic Church, and the government. Orphanages are actually very well kept up very well. A lot of the caregiver, good ratio. A lot of the orphans are developmentally disabled. So, all right, this slide is Aerial Recovery Group's Ukraine mission, mission statement when it was active. And I'll let you just read that if you want. I could maybe skip over the wave tops of that. But essentially what we were doing was organizing missions to the eastern part of the country, near where the fighting's at, and evacuating the non-combatants, orphans and non-combatants, to the western part of the country, the Lviv area. Okay, in case anybody doesn't know where Ukraine is located, it's Eastern Europe. Very old history. It's very interesting history as well. They've been invaded by everybody around them has invaded them, and they've pretty much fought back every time. This is the example of where the Donbass region is at. It's essentially the southern tip of Ukraine, and that is where really the war started in 2014. All right, this is when I arrived at Rzeszów, Poland, and via Warsaw. And those are the first things you see on the runway. Those are U.S. Patriot missile batteries or anti-air missiles. 82nd Airborne, I believe, was there. Crossing into Poland, crossing from Poland into Western Ukraine. It's very rural in that area. Beautiful, actually. We have safe house in Rzeszów area. That's where you picked up the airport. I didn't know it was so tight-lipped and secret as to what I was going to be doing. I just knew that it was a legit organization. Fellow former military and executive security people that I knew here in the States were going over and helping out. And so this is where I did my first border crossing, Medica border crossing. And you just take the M11 straight to Lviv. This is a video. This is all right, so that's a border camp on the Ukraine side. A lot of people waiting to go to just millions of people were trying to cross. There's another shot. So we're heading east on the M11. They're heading west towards Poland. Traffic's not too bad going east, obviously. All right, this is why my first night I got there. It was a air raid.
We actually can't hear anything. Are there like sirens going off?
Yeah, it was just the air raid. The issue was that was my first. I got there in the evening, literally 12 hours after I got into Poland, and I got picked up in Poland, and I recognized Jeremy, who's the COO of Ariel, and I was grateful that I wasn't going to wake up in a bathtub with my kidney missing in Eastern Europe. So, and that it was a legit thing. And he literally hands me the keys to a van, and of course it's the right-hand driving van, and in Poland and Ukraine, everybody drives on the right-hand side. So it's like, wait a minute, I'm driving a British vehicle on the wrong-sided vehicle on the right side of the road. So, and it was a stick shift. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll figure this out. And he's like, take this, go to Lviv, and take this one guy with you. And he was a Norwegian guy, and worked for another NGO, and needed a ride to Lviv. So he was my traveling buddy for several hours. So anyway, this is our office and operations center. Before the war, it was a vocational school. Obviously, all the young adults, their vocation now was being in the army and repelling Russians, and so all the staff was still there, and and the culinary part of the vocational school would cook us lunch at least. So we had a guaranteed lunch, although I'm not, you know, I'm not real big on Eastern European food. Too many sausages and cabbage. So, but borscht is okay. I learned to like borscht. Okay, so here's a couple short little clips of Lviv. Lviv is one of the oldest cities in Europe, believe it or not, and there's a lot of history there. You could do your own churches. That was my morning walk to the office when I was in Lviv. Okay, so yeah, more Lviv, very picturesque. Usually it would be packed with tourists, but not during the war. And Dana, I'm gonna figure out how to put this on like Dropbox or something so you could upload it. I just didn't get that far.
No problem.
I can help you with that.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Rebecca. I'm not a, like I said, I don't spend much time in front of the computer these days. All right, Lviv Opera. That's the centerpiece in the old town. I lived. Well, we had about a half dozen safe houses all around Lviv, and there were some we would. Let's see, I don't want to give away anything, but yeah, we basically switch out living in those houses. So you always had to kind of live out of a bag, you know. So more photos. Yes, it was a little chilly there most days when I was there. Spring comes really late to that part of the world. There's some banners, some military stuff. You know, they're really, I could tell. You know, the thing that struck me is the resiliency of the Ukrainian people and the common belief that they would overcome and repel and they, I mean, you know, you look at, I mean, hell, Stalin tried to, you know, committed genocide in this country by starving Ukraine, taking their grain and sending it into Moscow. So these people are very, very independent and very steadfast in their freedom and their sovereignty. Okay, yeah, an old Soviet era statue that was sitting in a junkyard. We had to get we had about 12 to 18 vehicles that constantly needed something. So yeah, finding parts for vehicles. A lot of, you know, we had a lot of mechanically inclined people working for us. A lot of you know, you have to have a lot of different knowledge. You have to know how to, you know, road recovery of vehicles. You know, the roads are horrible. There's a lot of shrapnel on the roads that cut right in tires. So yeah, tires and rims, you got to have some extras. We would do that. And I just saw that when I was going to the junkyard to a scrapyard to get some some basically tires and rims. I saw that statue head and I snapped a photo, but it was pouring down rain. Here's some of the orphan caregiver operations. We were receiving, I think it was 1 or 2 buses of orphans that were being, resettled in the Lviv area. Lviv is relatively safe. All right, by safe I mean it's not getting missile attacks on a daily basis, and so it's relatively safe. And the old part of the city, which is most of the city, is supposed to be a protected site, UNESCO protected site. So when missiles hit Lviv, it just shows there's no military. It makes no sense. All the military around Lviv is outside of Lviv, so it makes no sense. More photos, Western Ukraine. This is in central Ukraine. We would, it would almost be wherever there was room for evacuees, we would try to coordinate that. And it was mainly coordinated, a lot of that coordination, how many people need to be evacuated, where do they need to be evacuated, finding space for them. That was done strictly by the Ukraine and a lot of the NGOs that have been in Ukraine for a lot longer than aerial recovery was there. So we were just in charge of getting them where they need to be safely with medical and safeguarding and security and whatnot. This is in Dnipro. That is one of the furthest east that I went to, that I personally went on a mission to. Dnipro is a city that's right on the Dnipro. It's pronounced Dnipro. I say Dnipro, but Dnipro River, very close to the Donbass region. And this is just example, one family that we bring, a family, and I think they could have 2 animals with them, small animals. And 2 bags per person. I would try to imagine like me leaving my house with just 2 bags, pack 2 bags, and you don't know if your house will be standing when you come back, or if a Russian will be living in your house. There's some southern suburbs of Kyiv. Don't worry, these are the only. Oh, no, I have one more, but nothing graphic. Just you've seen this on the news. It's horrible. It's no military targets. This is one of the rare missile hits in Lviv. I just pulled over and shot some quick video. It was a tire shop that was hit, targeted, basically a civilian tire, where you get tires and rims. All right, the results and mission highlights. Over 7,000 were evacuated from high-risk areas. That's during aerial recovery mission from February to August 2022. I was only there from 23 March to 30 April, but I did go on 3 missions. So millions of dollars of aid transported and distributed. And again, in August 22, aerial recovery group dissolved the Ukraine and turned it over to local partners, the MAME project. I'm sorry, MAME, Ukraine-based NGO. They are doing all the current future operations. If you look it up, that's the website, and everybody in that project are were and they were our Ukraine partners. I couldn't, you can't do anything without having, Ukraine partners. They're 21 to actually, Yarrow was he was 19. So 19 to basically 28. That's how old our Ukraine partners were. They got out of military service mainly because they spoke English very fluently. And so the government had them doing more important things like, working with us. And like I said, we couldn't have done anything without them. Anyway, so that's the end of my slideshow. And in the end, those are the total numbers. The aerial recovery posted. I was only involved in about 36 days of that. That's about it. If anybody else stops sharing my screen, I guess, how do I do that? Okay, there we are. All right. Okay.
Wow. Thank you, Alex, so much for sharing that. I mean, it's amazing. I'm glad we got to see it like through your eyes. And I can't believe, that I feel like I don't watch the news just because, there's a lot of negativity on there. But so I like to see it, through the people who are actually there. Like, so thank you for really sharing this and going into detail and capturing it so well. And I'm just like blown away. I don't even know what to say. I did have a question. Okay, so you were only there for how many days, or two or 3 months, or a month?
36 days, I think. Yeah, a little over a month.
Uh-huh. And so how many families were like on these buses? Like how many kids did they out of the 7,000 families, how many kids were on that?
Well, the official numbers are 998 orphans and 6,331 internally displaced persons and 92 animals.
Wow. I wonder what happened to the bigger animals, because they could only bring the small ones, right?
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't include those photos. But I would have to make runs. I only went on 3 missions. Usually we average about 1 mission a week because there's a lot of planning and a lot of vetting. We would get like calls for missions, and they were what do you call it? Like what do you call it? Catfish, like Russian catfish type stuff. They're trying to get aid organizations to go to a place, and then they would be pulled out. And if anything Western or pro-Ukrainian was on their phones, they were basically executed, shot in the back of the head on the side of the road. So you had to be very careful vetting, like for these requests for evacuations, that they were actually legitimate. And so I went, like I said, I only went on 3. The most of the time was done a lot of admin type stuff, a lot of I basically set up that operations center, and a lot of I hate to say it, yes, I have a little IT experience, and mainly with counter surveillance and stuff like that. So we had cameras everywhere, and a lot of setting up burner phones with VPNs and SIM cards that were not Western SIM cards, and so there was a lot of that type of counter electronic surveillance type stuff going on as well. But I would make runs to the Polish border to pick up personnel and or equipment, and you would see these trucks. I forget what the NGO was called, but they were working, taking the pets out, like these abandoned pets out of war-torn areas, the eastern part of the country. People, I mean, as much as you love your pet, you know, it's time to go. It's time to go, and it's one of those things. Some people stay. Some people refuse to stay, refuse to leave, which that could has a its consequences as well. So there was a lot of NGOs grabbing stray or abandoned animals, usually larger animals, and getting them into the EU countries and getting them adopted and cared for. So on the border, you'd see these vans with all these pets, and and they were trying to get them out of Ukraine as well. So there was organizations doing that.
Wow. And how many military men do you think do you know how many volunteered with Aerial Recovery Group?
Well, all right. There were, you had two groups of people with Aerial Recovery Group. As one guy said, like, oh, you have the nice people, and then you have the a-holes, and the a-holes were like all the former military people, and we're,
Tough guy.
the nice people were usually the donors. Like, the only way that we were able to do this was through generous donations. And back then, everybody was like, throw everything you got it at
Right.
Aerial. I mean, there was wealthy people sending their private planes and pilots, their G6s to Poland,
Oh,
and
wow.
people dragging Pelican cases across like nice leather, like upholstery on these G6. Like, this one pilot came in, stayed in Lviv, and then he was gone the next day. He's like, yeah, man, I just flew in a G6 to Rzeszów, and the owner is going to be pretty ticked off because I think we ripped up the leather interior, like dragging big heavy Pelican cases across. So so I mean, people were throwing back then. Everybody was like, and then it got political, and then now it's like, So
Yeah.
as far as we would have donors come in, and that's what the former military people were doing, was kind of making sure these donors didn't get in trouble. Like, for example, like, they would take pictures at bad. They would try to take photos of in bad areas, like border crossings, and you can't take photos of military over there. You'll end up in jail or detained if you do that. So you have to kind of like watch them and their behavior, watch their back, make sure there's not a lot of crime over there because it's martial law. Right, martial law. The plus side of martial law is there's like zero crime. The downside is there's a curfew, and if you're out after curfew, you better have a curfew pass, which I had. And so a lot of the donors would come in. They would come in for like maybe a couple of days, and then go back to Poland, because a lot of them were like high dollar, like tens of thousands of dollars they would donate, and they would get a free trip to Lviv, basically. So that's what we did a lot. And then some of them did go on missions, but not a lot of them.
It's fascinating. I was really shocked to learn that most of the Ukrainians that were helping you were so young, 19.
That's what hit me hard. I mean, but they were so, I mean, I guess it helped, they're very resilient and resourceful. They could get it, still call them the guys that get things done. We would come up with a plan, and it's like, and that plan falls through, and we need warehouse space somewhere for all this aid that we got coming in, and at the 11th hour, one of our partners, Vlogco, I called him up. I'm like, look, this guy has a ton of aid that he's bringing in, like 4 tractor trailers full of aid, and we have no place to put it, and because that warehouse deal fell through. And so within that, within 4 hours, we had a warehouse space. So that is why it's kind of how special operations works in foreign countries. You have to have good, solid, trustable people that are local nationals working with you.
Did you get to know any of them? Like, did they share like anything about their families, like going through this, or this whole experience?
Well, yeah, actually the first person I met was a woman, young woman who is basically taking care of the Polish safe house that we had over in the Shepler area. And her father and her brother and her fiance Ukraine fight in the army, so on the front lines. And actually, like, her father just was killed a couple weeks ago, which is really sad. So yeah, and then all our partners. Yeah, I got to know. I mean, I drove all the way to Dnipro with this guy Max, I think Max in 2021. And so they said road trip, basically driving. It's like driving across Texas, except with really, really bad roads. So, and military checkpoints, a ton of them. So in order to get through military checkpoints, obviously you have to have somebody that speaks Ukraine and knows, like, hey, we're working with the government, and don't shoot us, we're not Russians. So,
Karen did say in the chat, she says, thank you, first of all, for all your service. You are a patriot that I respect and admire. I can
thanks, Karen.
She says, I can sleep at night knowing that you others like you have your eyes on the prize, and that goes a long way to protect our freedom. So great father and family man. Blessed to hear you share.
Thanks, Karen.
Alex,
Some quick comments.
how
I
did
was
you
gonna put it
process?
I was gonna put it in the chat. But Alex, you and I have something in common, which is empathy, sympathy, whatever, for Ukraine. I tutored a Ukrainian young lady, 28 years, who is a tutor herself and has been going on for a while. And, the story she tells me, because we kind of have a free flow interchange, it's heart-wrenching, and you're right, they're very resilient. They will not lose hope. They will put that left foot in front of the right and just keep on going. Thank you. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, but I just, I grew up in Pittsburgh, a mixed neighborhood, but the Ukrainian family, I had great friends with. I had kind of like a surrogate mom. So kind of more, they were from the Odessa region originally. So I just, personally, I just think that this, people say, oh, World War III, it could start World War III. And I think this may be the beginning of World War III. It started about a year ago, or it might have started after Crimea. I remember in 2006, when I was in the Marine Corps, we had a Black Sea rotational force that would go and train with Georgian soldiers and Marines. And I was shocked to find out, in 2008 when Russia took over Georgia, is pretty dumbfounding right there. And I knew this is going to be the next. Back then we're still Iraq and Afghanistan, but it's just so strange that like the foreign policy has just like been distracted with the Middle East so long, and not even keeping an eye on Putin. So yeah, I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, how did you process it all? Like when you left, like how did you process the experience?
It's very. I mean, well, it's weird. So I was used to work. I mean, we were. Well, that I'm supposed to be doing this type of work. I found out real quickly. Just it's very demanding. Like very little sleep. Eat when you can, and to do it for a month. I kind of saw rotations of people like me coming through. Like they only come for 10 days, and they go back, and they come back for 10 days. And I was like, wow, it's a lot of sitting on an airplane, but it's also a time to recover too, because it's like military deployment, except you're working. I was awake a lot more, a lot of work, especially when there was a mission going on. Yeah, they're out there driving east. The team, the mission team, but at the same time, we have to have somebody in the operations center. Now, granted, we don't have like a quick reaction force to go save them or anything like that, but there are avenues to contact the military and stuff like that, the Ukrainian military, to get them set up, and plus also tracking for situational awareness tracking on a map, like as well, trying to find alternate routes for them if a bridge was down, which happened quite a. There was a few bridges that were basically not operable. So yeah, so a lot of not sleeping, poor nutrition, and not the only saving grace is the only healthy saving grace is there's during martial law. There's like zero to little alcohol. So a lot of like the not a lot of people drinking. So which is good and bad. So trying to relax on your time off, it's if you partake in alcohol. So.
Wow, well that's just amazing. To see the journey that you went through and even try to imagine it. It's like it's hard to try to imagine it. It's so surreal. How many did you tell me that you met a family and you knew the child had autism when you were over there?
Right. Yeah, that one family I took a photo of. I spent drove them all the way from I mean, there was a huge bus, obviously, in the photo that we had. In fact, most of the missions we would have to either rent, or we actually bought a bus, and I think it was donated in Poland or something like that. But the family, I was in a smaller vehicle, driving a smaller vehicle with a Ukrainian partner, Max, and the family, they were riding with us, so we got to know them. I mean, like I said, if you take a road trip with somebody across Texas, you're going to get to know them.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah, their boy was. I would, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a dad of a kid on the spectrum, and yeah, he was definitely on the spectrum. And there was a reason why the father wasn't being called into service. I had a feeling. I think that's what what the interpreter told me, because of the special needs that this child had.
Wow.
So that you see a lot. You know, you'd be like, oh, why isn't the father in the army? Well, I mean, because if you have a special need child or something like that, then the father would be, you know, they would keep the family intact. Yeah.
That's nice to hear and kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of our
Actually,
military has, you know, special needs families and they still have to deploy, right?
right. And
Yeah.
you know, I guess the Ukrainian military, they have the exceptional family member program as well. So it's probably called something different. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm counting this as a blessing today. I mean, just like I'm always touched by you, Alex, and this work that you did. Um, I mean, it's just like not quantifiable. It's just extraordinary.
Well, yeah, you asked how honestly, when I got back, I was already planning to go back, but then, you know, when you're it's a problem with deployments. When you're gone, you don't know what's going on at home. So with every deployment, there's always, you know, you know, uh, there's a negative, you know, obviously, because Tracy's here by herself with our kids and trying to maintain and some kind of normal, you know, and so it took a while for me to like reacclimatize to that and say, you know what, you know, I gotta take care of, tend to my own family first, you know, and make sure that,
Mhm.
you know, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I had the blessing of my family with it. You know, there were a lot of Americans I saw that were heading to the front line to work with the Ukrainian Legion, and they would, you know, I'd say 90% of them were probably divorced and estranged from their family. So, you know, that is the takeaway from that. So.
Well, that's a really, you know, important takeaway. I mean, I wouldn't assume that, but I'm really thankful that, you know, you had that like awareness because I mean, it's like pure torture on the person that loves you when you're away, you know, it's like pure torture. So those people that you're recognizing don't have that person being tortured at home, missing them. They're flying there, you know, they're running to it.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of makes sense, Alex. That kind of helps me make sense of it because I did hear that there was so many Americans going over there to help, which honestly makes me really proud to be American. Give your family big hugs from us, Alex, and take lots for
I
you
will.
too. We love you guys.
Love you guys too. Take care.